Welcome to Hannity. Tonight, we are investigating the dangerous trend of radical Muslims on the march around the globe. For the entire hour, we're going to be joined by Middle East and military experts, as well as pundits from both sides of the aisle.
I think they used to get the funding from Middle East, but they're not. But the moderate Muslims are gaining momentum. There are more and more people. I'm in the community, Muslim community. There is a lot of support for what I am doing.
Does the Muslim community support me? Because I've been very outspoken against radicalism and Sharia and the treatment of women under Sharia. When you talk to people, they love this show.
Absolutely. Those Muslims, there are many I have talked, and I told them very clearly what you said earlier, that should distinguish between radical Muslims and Muslims and Islam.
But I'm afraid that the more moderate Muslims are afraid to speak out, and I think the numbers that have been radicalized are far greater numbers than we see, which is why we're watching. We're doing this special, because this, to me, you know, when you see people laid out, as we saw this week, and slaughtered, cold blood murder, or the people, you know, that we saw, the 48 people in Kenya that were slaughtered in cold blood because they didn't give the right answer. That, to me, is the equivalent of a modern-day Nazi. Pam Geller.
Well, I think that Mr. Ghouse lives in his own private Islam. He doesn't have a theological leg to stand on. We saw, not just in Kenya, but we saw in the Westgate Mall, and we saw in Iraq, that the jihadists were separating who they would slaughter and who they wouldn't. They were separating the Muslims from the non-Muslims. Longtime readers of my website, Atlas Shrugs, are not surprised by these developments. This was expected. Obama has been aiding a jihadist agenda. Came out yesterday under a Freedom of Information Act, the close ties that Obama had with Libya, Muslim Brotherhood, who were involved in the attack on our embassy. That's the real smoking gun. That Christopher Stevens had met with the Libyan Muslim Brotherhood in July, the same people that were involved in the Benghazi murder. The idea that there are moderates, there are moderate Muslims that secretly agree. According to so many worldwide and national polls, there are many that support jihad.
Let me bring up a political question, and I'll throw it to my good friend Tamara Holder. Hi, Tamara.
Hi, Sean.
Because under this president, it seems very clear. He recently this week let out radicals in Afghani prisons. We know that we had the Bergdahl swap, for example. 5 of the most hardened criminals, terrorists, detainees. Why would the president do this? Why would the president sit back, pull out of Iraq, and city after city where so many Americans shed their blood to help save Iraq and turn Iraq around into an ally of the United States? One by one, those cities are falling.
Right. The reason why the president did that was because we had an American soldier who was held captive, and he made an exchange, which of course you would never agree with, because nothing the president does you would agree with. But you, ma'am, I think are the most dangerous person in society.
Which ma'am?
With the Heritage Foundation.
No, she's not. Brigitte, she's with Act for America.
I'm sorry. With Act. I think that you are the most dangerous person because to say things like moderate Muslims supposedly are not terrorists, supposedly are not dangerous. The majority of Muslims in this country and in this world are safe, loving people who want peace and who want to protect. Those Nigerian girls were Muslim, by the way, as well. It wasn't just Boko Haram. It was those Nigerian girls.
So dangerous about this. You're a very dangerous person, because these are heroes standing up for the victims of Islam. And let me tell you, I study how sociopaths behave, how psychopaths behave. We see this in the unholy alliance right now with the left and Islam. What they do is, when a vicious ideology, totalitarian ideology, attacks us and we're victims, what these people do is they make the perpetrator the victim and the victim the perpetrator. So heroes like Pamela Geller, that made a memorial grove for Aqsa Parvez, a 16-year-old Muslim girl. She stood up for the memory of a murdered, honor-killing victim and made a memorial grove for her in Jerusalem Park. And thank you that you did that, Pamela. And she's called an Islamophobe. She's called a hater. So what's happening here is these are the heroes standing up for the victims of Islam. But what we have is an unholy alliance between the left and Islam, and they're making the heroes the perpetrators. And you're dangerous. You're dangerous by shutting us up about talking the evil that we face.
We got to take a break.
Yeah, Sean, I tend to agree with KT. If you look at, we have hard metrics about all the things we've been talking about. These brave guys have been talking about the caliphate. 2/3 of the Muslims from Morocco to Indonesia are in favor of establishing a caliphate. That's not a tiny minority of extremists. They may have idealized visions about what that actually entails,
Are you saying
but it's
that
objective.
the majority of the Islamic
we have hard polling
world
data.
is radicalized? I mean, is that what you're saying? I mean, speak plainly.
That's not radicalized to their standard. To our standard, it absolutely is.
So
if they
from our
want a
standard,
caliphate.
it's radicalized. And welcome back to this audience edition of Hannity. Radical Muslims on the March. We bring back our studio audience. Pam Geller, we haven't talked a lot about the treatment. We got into this debate earlier with Brigitte, but the treatment of women under Sharia. Republicans are often accused of engaging in a war on women. I don't hear the left talking a lot about the treatment of women under Sharia.
No. As a matter of fact, anyone that does work with Muslims, former Muslims, I receive upwards of 20 emails a week from Muslims in other countries asking me for help, asking me to get out. You never hear their stories. And the fact that the name calling, which you witnessed here, the name calling, dangerous, 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 disgusting. This is what they do. This is the art of the smear. Even the young woman that was debating Brigitte, Brigitte really did sort of pull her out when she said all of the Muslims that were killed by the smears post 9/11. And even yesterday, Bratton, New York Police Department commissioner, said that he was going to assign extra security to mosques. Extra security mosques, and give police guides to Islam and the 5 pillars. This in the wake of the guy who said, "I'll see you in New York." That's the response.